I was asking about tech law in Africa. Is it something you think that has taken off or reached a global competitive level yet?
I think the question is quite difficult to answer because in our industry, we are facing like a huge terminology battle. So, what some people refer to as tech law, others think is law tech. What some people refer to as tech law, others think is legal tech. But I'll try and put all in one bracket and say that everything related to that is using technology for legal services. I'll leave the legal battles for the people trying to define what law tech law and legal tech is. But if you ask me whether Africa has taken off, I would say COVID helped us. So COVID propelled like our acceptance for legal innovation. We are not where we think we can be at the moment because of various gaps. First of all, the legal industry is one of the most conservative industries in the world. So acceptance or adoption within like the fraternity is quite difficult. Getting lawyers to embrace a change in the way they do things is quite difficult, but we are getting there. The biggest gap I would say within the entire industry is access to justice, which is the same globally. So the main people or the benefits or consumers of legal services are the people. And I do not think that Africa is anywhere close where other parts of the world are with providing access to justice. First of all, there is a huge gap in access to internet within the African market. So people who do not have access to internet, it will be quite difficult to provide them with legal solutions through technology. So I would say we are getting there on the part of providing technology for lawyers to do their work. There is quite a huge number of legal tech startups within Africa at the moment. I cannot provide the numbers to it, and that will be one of the challenges that we have. We do not have enough data within the African market. So you could sit in Uganda and you would imagine how many legal tech startups will be in South Africa, but we do not have a concrete market, or sorry, concrete data to suggest the number of startups within the market. And that is why a group of friends and I started Legal Tech Lounge in Ghana to try and bring the community together within Africa and see how we can collaborate more to provide more information on what is happening within innovation in Africa.
Okay. Aside the internet access issues with internet access, and then um the lack of a collated or accumulated database for legal startups, tech startups. What do you think are some of the deficit causes of these deficits? Why are we not catching up at the pace we are supposed to catch up? What do we need to do right, in your opinion, like from where you sit?
Yeah, in my opinion, I would say there should be a lot of education, and I'll break the education into two. So the education is educating the public about how legal services is reinventing. So legal services is changing from the traditional way of trying to go to a lawyer to help you with whatever issue you have. It's reinventing now with people trying to find access to whatever they want through the internet. So there should be a lot of education for the general public as a whole about how legal services is now going. The other part of education has to do with how our legal education is structured for law students or legal professionals. So there's quite a very low level of trying to train lawyers about the models of how the world is heading towards now, particularly with how generative AI is going. I do not think there is any university, I can speak for Ghana, but I do not think there is any university that has developed a very clear model that sort of tell people about the future of legal services. So I will point one of the biggest challenges to lack of education for the public and for the people delivering the legal service. Another thing I would also point to is regulation, which obviously will take some time because that is same everywhere. because law is one of the most sensitive professions in the world, and people are scared to innovate because they do not know what sort of regulatory hurdle they can face. So we have to relook at some of the regulations which are guiding the legal services or professions in Africa. And that is going to take some time. But I would say it's education for public, for the legal service providers, and regulation as a whole.
And from your experiences thus far, do you think there'll ever be a time, because most often there's this fear among the legal community that once they open up fully for tech to sort of, for the lack of a better word, infiltrate the sector, there's this likelihood that technological tools would take away most of the jobs in the legal industry. So would there ever be a time where we would have to worry that tech innovations, tech tools would take away the jobs of lawyers or people in the legal industry?
Yes, I'll answer this question in a yes and no because I used to be on the side of I have a newsletter I write called Lawyers Who Beat AI. So I used to be on the side of where I preached about there's no way technology was going to replace any lawyer or any service being provided within the legal industry. But that has changed over time. It has changed over time because we are starting to see some of the technologies being built. I would use ChatGPT as a classic example, which ChatGPT 4 is doing more than I thought that it could be doing when I saw ChatGPT 3. So when I see that, I start to get worried about how some people within the legal professions job will be replaced. So it's not going to be an entire overhaul about all lawyers are going to be replaced, but because of the amount of data that are being fed to some of these softwares, the very manual, or sorry, the administrative jobs that were being done by lawyers would be replaced. So the issue about being scared of their jobs being gone is really true and is real. But what I would say is that if you are a person within the legal profession and within the next 2 years, you do not upskill to use technology effectively, you can be replaced in the next decade. So in the next decade, the people who do not upscale now, trying to use technology to help them do their work will be replaced. But I am 100% certain that there is no a robot or AI that can think as good as a lawyer advising a human being. But if you do not use this thing to help you do your work, then you stand a better chance of being replaced. And I'll give you another example about something totally unrelated to law. Ahead of when the phone or mobile phone was introduced, people were quite skeptical about whether smartphones will actually replace the phone booth, the whole go to a place to go and make a call system. There was a whole sort of fight against they will never be replaced. But here stand the case, there's no phone booth in anywhere in the world anymore. Even if there is a phone booth, it is for a tourist attraction. I'll give you another example about newspapers. Newspapers have not been totally replaced. It is still a business, it still exists, but I do not think within the next decade anyone would walk to a store to buy a newspaper or try to get a newspaper. Everybody will try to get news through the digital means. So the people who made good use of the digital newspapers at the time it was coming up are now benefiting. So the legal profession should try and learn from some of these use cases or some of these examples that if you do not try to embrace technology, it might get rid of what you are doing.
Okay, so you've spoken about how we can match more developed countries, but how long do you think it's going to take? Is it something that we're supposed to look forward to in the interim, say in the next 10 years, 15 years? How long, if you were to put numbers to it, how long do you think Africa has to go?
So I won't put numbers to it, but I'll answer your question in a different way. And that was going to be a suggestion I would have made at the end of our conversation, is that what we lack most in Africa is research and development, right? So this has to do with trying to answer some of these questions that you're asking today or asking me. I cannot give you a number or I cannot give you a time when it's going to take for this to happen. But I think governments across the continent must invest in research and development in legal innovation. What this will do is that it will help them make informed decisions about some of the things that are being done within their countries. So I'll give you another example. In Ghana, there is a bigger issue about accessing the Ghana School of Law or trying to get into that. I think what the General Legal Council or the government can do or must be doing is that trying to invest into understanding the numbers within the school and understanding the numbers within the job market. So when they know that, they'll try to find a gap as to what they can do, what sort of programs that can be done at the LLB stage that can meet the job market that they are seeing based on the numbers. So I think if we invest in research and development, we'll be able to tell when all of this will be happening, but I cannot give you a concrete time or figures about what is going to happen in the future.
All right. And finally, I'd want us to talk about the Law Tech Hangout. Um, how do you think organizing that program has impacted on the field in the short term? So far, what have you seen? What are some of the changes that you've seen? What is the future of that hangout? And what have been some of your observations so far? Are people reaching out to you? Are you basically what's the future of the Law Tech Hangout?
Yeah, I think there's been so much than I expected, or there's been like quite a lot of good outcomes out of the Law Tech Hangout. So obviously it started as a very small thing, try to hang out with a few people I know within the innovation space, but I went bigger through the internet, through Twitter. I got a larger audience to come and hang out. So the first thing we observed was that there were a lot of people doing stuff within the legal innovation space in Accra that didn't have other people to speak to. So there was a lack of community. So the biggest benefit we had out of the Hangouts is that we brought everybody within the country together. Now people know people doing legal tech stuff in Kumasi. People know those in Tamale doing it. Everybody came down at the Hangout. So we have a sense of community now. The numbers are almost 700 plus based on various platforms put together across the country. So that's how huge it was. Another thing or benefit we had out of the Hangouts was that we shaped conversations. Like what I'm telling you today about legal education must be relooked was being discussed thoroughly at the event that we need to rethink about how we train lawyers now. So now that was a starting point to the conversation. And I'm sure that has also fed into some of the people we had there because we had people ranging from government, law firms, and law student there. So there was a center where everybody involved or any stakeholder was there to listen to shape conversation elsewhere. What we have also signaled is that there isn't a huge, bigger legal tech or legal services market in Africa. So we have signaled it across the continent. So we've had people reach out from other countries like South Africa, from Kenya, saying they are going to come to the Law Tech Hangouts next because they are also in silos within their country. So we are having it again in November this year, 2024 in Accra. But the goal is to have it as an Africa Law Tech Hangout rather than centering it on Ghana or Accra. The plan is to have some mixes across some other countries within Africa. But the biggest goal is to make sure that we are collaborating more. We are building a sense of community because one of the things or the bigger factors driving the tech industry is being open sourcing about whatever you are doing. So when you have people trying to share, people trying to help others, it helps build the ecosystem. So that is our goal, to build a community where everybody can come and try to share and contribute to the legal tech ecosystem in Africa.